Welcome, Sagarika and Dhairya, on this discussion about funding, scholarships, education loans that one actually uses to fund their master's program. I have with me Sagarika, who graduated with a mechanical engineering degree from Arizona State University, and Dhairya, who completed his master's in mechanical engineering from University of Colorado at Boulder, and is currently pursuing his PhD in mechanical engineering. Right. So,
Yeah.
I just want to understand what was your whole experience from searching once you decided to apply for a master's? How did you decide to go about the whole funding was looking for scholarships, whatever the entire. So anyone can go first. Sagarika, maybe you can.
Sure. As soon as I got my admit, I first of all chose the most conventional was to go for an education loan. I took my education loan from SBI because even though it was not a collateral free loan, it was giving me the lowest amount of interest rate.
Sure. Yeah.
It was charging lower interest rates, so I took that. Apart from that, ASU had some generic scholarships which was offered to the School of Engineering students, so applied to a couple of them. And apart from that, RATA, from what I talked to the students who were already there, I got to know that it was very, firstly it was competitive, and secondly we had to prove ourselves that our academic record, that we can maintain our GPA while being a research aide or a research assistant or a teaching assistant. So getting it in the first semester was a little bit challenging.
But in the duration of your entire master's, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, of course, the education loan probably contributed to the major, I mean, covering up of your expenses. How about
Mm-hmm.
other sources of income? I mean, you had student jobs. Any? Did you get the scholarship
Uh-huh.
that ASU offered?
I did get the engineering scholarship, which was like $1,000 off. Every semester you need to refresh it, so you have to apply every semester.
Okay.
And other than that, my fee was covered by my education loan,
Okay.
and my living expenses, I was doing an on-campus job for that.
Okay. How about you, Dhairya?
So my journey was similar to Sagarika initially. Like my major source of funding was through my education loan, and I was working when I applied, so I didn't had a lot of time at my hand to go to public banks like
Okay.
SBI might take a lot of time. So I went with HDFC Credila,
Okay.
but that came with a cost of higher interest rate. Um, but initially it was my plan to just cover my tuition fees through my education loan, and I had a part-time job of grader, which might be considered as a part-time TA. So I had 10 hours of two different classes for that, and that I was able to cover my living expenses for first sem. Second sem, I was about to convert to a thesis student, which is a research-based MS track in CU system. But I had a fall off with the professor, so I wasn't able to join as a RA at that moment. But we had a lot of student jobs as such as dining and other services. So for 10 hours, I was working as a usher in one of the auditorium.
Okay.
Um, yeah. At that moment, I came in contact with one of the professor who was looking for a student who can work with CFD. And initially, he told me upfront that he don't have any funding, but I was really interested in at least building my resume. So I went ahead with that part. And I think in most cases, students don't see the long term and they just give up on such opportunities. But if you want my recommendation, I would say like please just go ahead even if you are getting a voluntary opportunity, because that might convert into a funding opportunity. Which so I to be honest, I was very fortunate with that. It was a lot of luck involved thing. Um, so I worked without any pay, but from my third semester, my professor funded me with a RA, and I was able to get a stipend and, and tuition fee remission from that.
Okay, so your RA basically from the third semester covered the entire. You got a full tuition fee waiver plus you got a
Yeah,
stipend, and then it also covered insurance.
yeah.
Okay, cool. Uh, in your case, Sagarika, your student jobs that you had and the scholarship, was that enough to cover your living expenses, or you still had to use some of your loan money to cover your living cost?
My student job paid me enough to cover my living expenses,
Okay,
and that scholarship I contributed towards my
okay. Scholarship was basically applied towards your wallet fee.
fee. Yeah, yeah,
Right. So the student loan basically just you had to pay the balance fee, and that was all.
yeah.
Uh,
That's all.
but in general, I mean, in your class or at your university, how many students generally manage to get these kind of student jobs, RAs? So, I mean, obviously, student job is something that is amongst the, if you look at possible funding sources, right? There are scholarships, there
Yeah.
are RATAs, or any kind of a graduate assistantship, and then there are
Mm-hmm.
the student jobs. So, what kind of percentages approximately of students do you think
I
generally?
would say for the first semester, almost none in my class. From the
Okay,
second semester, definitely there is a lot of people
okay,
who were graders in the first semester for that professor, and they continued on in their lab. I
okay.
would say similar to Dhairya's experiences, some of them volunteered during the first semester because maybe they didn't get an on-campus job, so they wanted to do something at least. So they volunteered with the professor, and that's what converted into mostly in second or by third semester, most of them would at least convert into a teaching assistant, which would not give them 100% waiver, but some part of the fee would get waived along with their hourly pay as a
Okay.
teaching assistant.
Okay. How
So
about
that
yes, go ahead.
and that would be amounting to like 3 to 4 students per every 10 students.
Okay.
I would say
Okay.
that was good.
Hmm. So that's a good number actually. Like almost 30-40% of the students manage to get
Yeah.
these kind of opportunities, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And how about you, Dhairya? I mean, how are things at Boulder?
So I haven't had any fully funded opportunity which I got. So that's why I'm like emphasizing on it. I got lucky, to be honest,
Okay.
and that too. It was not just with my batch. I think it happened, but like 2 years before, like the case which I had.
Okay.
So it is very rare,
Okay.
and yeah, and I think the teaching assistant jobs are still possible because I had a lot of friends who were in research track and a lot of other schools in my university system, such as biology department or uh, statistics department. They had fully funded opportunities. So because they are thesis track students, they can still work as a full-time TA and teach those subjects. So
Okay.
I had friends from computer science who were teaching biology, but they had their tuition fee covered and they were also getting stipend. Like same case as I was.
Okay.
So those are the opportunities which can be availed if you want to fully cover your fee. But I think it depends a lot on the incoming students. Like what's the volume of cohort of students which are coming to a university.
Okay.
So if it's more, then it gets highly unlikely at that moment. And because I'm in the system for like 3 years, I've seen three totally different stages. So for this year, we had a lot of part-time grader or TA jobs, which were offered by department, but that was not at all the case when I came. Like that was super rare opportunity. Yeah,
So what you're saying is, I mean, it also depends on the number of students at that
yeah,
university for that intake. probably
Yeah.
the funding available with the university or the
Yeah.
department at that point,
True.
right?
True.
Right. So, and okay, just to ask you there, yeah, I mean, you said you got lucky, but was that luck something to do with the fact that you wanted to do a PhD? I mean, had you expressed that interest and maybe that is how it clicked, or was it?
Um, Yeah. So I think it's I don't know if it's like kind of destiny or something, but I had this conversation with Jyotsna that I was interested if possible to do a PhD if I get funding.
Okay.
And she told me like Colorado Boulder is a school where you can do a PhD and be glad about it, like compared to the other admits which I have.
Uh-huh.
So that was one of the reason why I picked Boulder. And I didn't directly told my professor that I'm interested in PhD,
Mhm.
but his expectation was like he would really like that I got converted to PhD. Like
Okay.
if I am to be honest, I didn't commit to him at all. Like to that I'll be doing a PhD. It was mostly on my choice, and he gave me that freedom. Like it's up to you, but you'll at least need to write a paper
Mhm.
for your thesis. That was his basic demand from my graduation while I was
Okay.
getting the MS funding.
Mhm.
And things turned out such way that doing a PhD became much more convenient for me because my thesis would have been taken longer, and I'll be graduated later to what I expected. And I'm already working with him, so my PhD also would take lesser time than what it takes conventionally.
Okay. And
Yeah,
you were anyway interested in a PhD, right? I mean, that was always
I was. Yeah,
a
but
definite thing, but at least that was
yeah,
something on your
but
mind all the time.
yeah. But my concern was like because I was funding my education through an education loan.
Mhm.
So like after graduation, I need to repay back, and doing that with a PhD stipend would be very hard. So things work out such way that half of my I availed only half of my loan, which was 50 lakhs. So I only spent on tuition fee somewhere around 25 lakhs.
Okay.
So it became much more possible to have savings from my stipend, and partly I can start paying off my loan, which I'm currently doing
Right, right. So that
since
was
last year. Yeah.
basically my next question was that since you had an education loan, I mean, and most students
Yeah.
have this thought that, okay, if my MS doesn't get funded and I spend from the
Yeah.
loan and I start my PhD, how do I repay the loan? I mean, the job pays you a
Yeah.
lot more than what a
Yeah.
PhD
Exactly.
pays you, and PhD
Mhm.
stipends are good enough to take care of your living cost, but not exactly to take care of your living cost and
Yeah.
pay the education loan. So you're saying that since you didn't spend the entire amount of sanctioned education
Yeah.
loan, you're still able to manage stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think like this thing depends a lot upon where your college is.
Mhm.
So the stipend which I'm getting vastly differs from what stipends my friends are getting at Purdue or ASU or at Oregon.
Mhm.
So um, like if- so Boulder is pretty much relatively expensive than the locations which I just mentioned.
Mhm.
But I think the good point about this is because we get more stipend, then even if we want to save, we can still save a lot more than that. So,
Okay.
for example, if you are getting paid off stipend such as $2,000, probably you'll save 50% of it, which is 1,000. But if I'm getting 3,000 as my stipend, I'll save 1,500. So that's like $500 more. So yeah, I think that matters a lot. Like,
So
what is your
you
stipend?
get a $3,000 stipend currently for
Yeah.
your PhD.
So yeah, so I would say it's exactly is somewhere around 3,200.
Okay.
But after all tax reduction and everything, I get somewhere around 2,850,
Okay.
somewhere around. Yeah.
So was this the same stipend for when you were doing your RA for a master's, or the PhD stipend increased?
So it was the same stipend. I think that differs for different universities.
Mhm.
So right now, Boulder is trying to have a same pay for all TAs and RAs.
Okay.
So effectively, that leads to like every student assistant who are fully funded get the same amount of stipend.
Oh, okay. That's a good
Yeah,
stipend actually to get. I mean, I didn't know
yeah,
Boulder pays so much because most of the
Actually,
stipends. Yeah,
Yeah.
because
Actually, it is very differently. I think
correct.
master students get paid a little less than the PhD guys.
At most universities, yes, and generally masters average stipends I have seen are somewhere around the 1,000 to 1,500,
Yeah.
whereas PhD stipends go up to 2,000. I mean, 2,000 is what most students consider as a great stipend for PhD. 3,000 is like I'm sure you'll do a postdoc too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, yes, PhD is hard work, so hope
Yeah.
you finish fast, and then
Yeah.
depending on what kind of career you choose later. So
Yeah.
in the whole process, I mean, Sagarika, what all did you do to try for these positions? I mean, what did you start trying for RAs, TAs, scholarships while you were in India, or mostly it was after you, or the student jobs as well, after you went there?
Student jobs I did not try prior to going there. I was
Okay.
only emailing. I just listed down a few professors from the ASU website that I was interested to work with. One was the renewable energy lab, and then there was one materials professor. So I just used to email them, talk to them, and then seek their are they seeking any volunteers or research assistants or teaching assistants.
Mhm.
Then have some conversations, some, but out of the 10 emails I wouldn't say all 10 professors are replying to you. Most of them just don't reply.
Okay.
So whoever replied, you just try to build a connection with them. That's how you get started.
Okay.
And after that, if after going to the after landing in the university, then maybe use their office hour. Just go meet them if you can, if they allow you. Then talk to them. That was the path I was seeking.
Okay. So at least yes,
Mhm.
emailing them and trying to establish a connect
A connect.
at least helps you go there and make that initial conversation a little. You could always say, right, I
Exactly.
was the one who emailed you and we had that
Yes.
email conversation. Yeah.
Hmm.
Right. Did you try that also, Dhairya?
Yeah, I initially tried that, but I hardly got any reply. And those who were replying me mostly used to mention that they don't have any opening in their lab.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So for me, I tried something unconventionally.
Okay.
So I audited some of the classes of professor who I was interested in working with, and I tried building that connection by like asking questions, like trying to establish a relationship where my professor can observe that if I'm capable to work with him. I like when they were leaving the class and going back to their offices, I used to walk with them and have conversation because most professors are busy, and these are the moments where you can actually avail their time without priorly letting them know.
Correct. Mhm.
So yeah, so that basically led me to like getting into contact with them
Okay.
most easily. Yeah.
Yeah. But the you said you audited their class. Was that while you were in India or after you reached there? I mean, did you audit
Uh,
them online?
so, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So initially, I was only looking for classes which were offered, and yeah, I used to because in US we can opt in a class and drop it like 2 weeks before
Mhm.
the semester starts. So that's what I used to do, because you cannot like take more than like 3 classes like normally.
Mhm.
So yeah, and if you're auditing, you don't have to worry about your grades or
Correct. Correct.
assignments. Like
Yeah.
that's not your
I
concern.
mean,
Yeah,
for
you.
those students, I mean, those who might be listening to this now or later,
Yeah.
auditing is basically you attend a class, but it's not you're not officially a student of that class. So you don't. The class doesn't show up on your transcripts. Some professors are okay even if you don't give the exams. I mean, depends on the
Mhm.
professors who allow auditing of classes. So it's just
Yeah.
that you take a class out of your own interest, although it doesn't show up on any records that you have actually attended this lecture. So, and that is something that most universities, most professors allow. So, uh, did you audit any classes, or you just took Sagarika, or did you just stick to the regular course?
I stick to the regular coursework,
Okay.
but I would like to add to what Dhairya said
Hmm.
that he tried to establish an in person connection showing his skill and capability to the professor.
Hmm.
I think that matters a lot. That's how my fourth semester I worked as a research aide at the photovoltaic reliability lab. because I took a class. I used to talk to the professor during our break time and ask him that if he's seeking any volunteer, at least a volunteer position.
Okay.
That's how I got. And then he said, "Yeah, why don't you come down to the lab and we can talk there."
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Cool.
that worked much more than emailing professors continuously.
Sure, right. Because a lot of students email, right? And when you try
Yeah,
to establish a personal connection, the recollection is also much better, and
yeah.
they know.
Taking a class that they
Yeah.
teach would be great.
Correct, right? Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of students, I mean, of course, funding is an important aspect, definitely, because that the dollar rate is increasing, cost of education is also increasing.
Yeah.
Universities have increased their fees over the past. I mean, every year there's a 2 to 3% increase in the tuition
Yeah.
fees. Cost of living
Mhm.
increases. So, what advice would you give students who are planning for their masters in terms of funding? I mean, how do they go about planning their whole funding thing?
I would say don't fully rely on getting a scholarship in your first semester itself. Don't put yourself that much pressure on yourself. If you can, then fund it with an education loan with collateral because it offers a lower rate of
Sure,
interest.
right. Yeah.
If you cannot, then go for the other non-collateral based options. But have a game plan for your first semester as well. That okay, this is my interest. Maybe my interest, for example, was renewable energy. So in first semester itself, if there's any basic course that you can take in the first semester and establish a connection with the professor, then like bug them. I would say be there, be there in the class, talk to them in the breaks, just express your interest. I think professors most importantly look that you are interested and you're capable of learning and doing stuff.
Yeah.
They're not expecting any out of the world rocket sciencey skill.
Right.
So don't be underconfident in your own skill.
Okay.
Then after that, just ask. Don't hesitate. Oh, maybe I'm not good. Just ask that if he has any position. So
Okay.
please, can he work at least hourly? Start with an hourly and then convert it into a fee waiver and stuff.
Oh, okay. And what about what advice would you give there?
So I'll little differ here. So before coming to Boulder, I knew it was a very expensive town. I already reached out to some of my seniors and asked them about student jobs. So before coming here, I got a dining job, like just to like cover my expenses because I didn't want to burden my education loan more than my tuition fee. So I had that. But after reaching
Sorry to
here,
interrupt you here. How did you
yeah,
get that dining job? I mean, you applied online
yeah.
on the Boulder website or through your friend's reference?
So my friend told me to email the manager, and he shared the manager's email with me and told me to mention him
Okay.
there.
His reference. Okay,
Yeah,
so that worked out.
yeah,
Okay, cool.
yeah. That worked out. I was able to get that job. So if nothing worked, I at least had have that.
Okay.
Apart from that, I was assigned a university mentor. So it's really important to check your university emails. They assign you with mentors. Most universities do. And that mentor referred me to another TA job because he got a better job and he can just leave it. So he told me like, why not you do it? And I'm like, yeah, for sure, I would go with it. And I took that, referred to it as well. And my second job in that semester was from a university email that they needed a part-time grader for 10 hours, and I opted in for that. It was an undergrad fluids class, and I got that as well. So I covered my 20 hours during my first semester through that. So I would say connections are really important in that aspect because the people you connect with are already in the system, they understand it, and they can help you in things where you fall off. Yeah,
Okay. Definitely. I mean, that is definitely,
yeah,
I mean, at least in your case, the connections really work. Yes, I
yeah,
mean, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't, but at least it's worth
yeah,
giving it a try.
yeah,
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And it's also, I think, the on-campus jobs, they depend very much on the amount, the volume of jobs that are available.
yeah,
If there
Correct.
are less jobs, there are more people competing for it. I think with the dining jobs, from my friends' experience, that I can tell you, it really works with connections. Like they
Yeah.
refer to their manager, yeah, this is my friend, he works with, like that.
Right, because what happens is in most cases, I mean, these dining jobs or maybe jobs, I mean, if you have to work as a library attendant or something, right?
Yeah.
When there is an opening, no, these jobs really don't need a lot of skills. Nothing really.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as you you are a sensible human being, you can do that job, right? And
True.
for the hiring person, like the restaurant manager or the, I mean, the dining manager or the librarian or someone, they really don't want to go through the whole process of interviewing 100 people for one single position. So that
Yeah.
is where it takes a lot of time, right, interviewing. So if
Mm.
they know someone, or sometimes it's
Yeah.
just as lucky as you being at the right place at the right time. I mean, you show up there and
Yeah.
this person and the person there has just left, you can just get the job. But I mean, rather than being that lucky, you can always try to establish connection with people who are already there in the system. And if they
Mhm.
know about the opening much before, and sometimes these openings
Yeah.
don't even come on the portals or something. They can find someone to replace a vacancy, they just give it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Because ASU and also for the on-campus jobs, I think people get stuck with a resume customization.
Yeah.
I don't think so you need that much of a resume customization for it. Just have a cover letter in which you can just change the job title and little bit about yourself, like you're talking to the hiring guy, because it's an on-campus part-time job. I
Correct.
would say that would be a useful thing to do,
You're right.
to build a cover letter
Yeah,
template you can
because
reuse.
yeah, I mean it makes sense, right? Because I mean, for example, Sagarika, you graduated with a mechanical engineering degree from India, worked for 5 years in the aviation sector, and what skill do you think would apply to a dining job?
Dining job, exactly,
I mean,
exactly.
what
If
kind
you
of a
can,
resume do you build, right?
yeah. I
So,
mean, no way can I customize it enough to fit a dining job.
yeah, right.
Like my first job was at the gym as a wellness supervisor. Like it was more on my personal interests of health and wellness than on my real career that I had.
Right. Yeah. So, preparing a resume for those jobs really doesn't make sense. And nobody really has the time and, I
yeah.
mean, uh, inclination even to go and into the details of your resume. All they need, the
Yes.
only time they look at your resume is for your name and phone number and to check if you have a local address.
Yeah,
That,
that's all.
that's the only time that they look at it. Right. So
Yeah.
So I think
yeah. Yes,
it's mostly as first come first serve. Like
correct,
I think
correct.
that's the case everywhere. Yeah.
First come first serve, or sometimes just being at the right place at the right time kind of
Yeah.
thing. And then yes, if someone refers you, makes things easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would like to add on something which Sagrika already mentioned, that students are like scared and don't approach professor by thinking like they are not good enough right now to work with those professor. So I think this is very general problem with a lot of students who come to US, and they don't weigh the qualities which those professor weighs more. And most important thing would be curiosity, which you already mentioned. Like if you are asking a lot of question, you are interested, these kind of things really makes a compelling research student personality out of you. So
Okay.
if you are asking question, you will eventually answer them, right? So things goes that way there. And sometimes you don't just go to professor and you're scared. But for me, it was one of my friend who just took me to the printer, like printed my resume and pushed me, like took me by pulling my hand, like let's go to that professor, and that's the professor I'm doing my PhD with. So
Okay.
yeah, yeah. Like you should be with friends who push you to be a better person. I think that's one of the most important thing because a lot of time we are alone here. So I think surrounding yourself with good people who motivates you to be a better person should be a important thing as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think often I did that mistake myself for the first 2 semesters. I was like self rejecting myself before even I talked to the professor.
Hmm.
I, And my professor, when I graduated, I worked with him only one semester. And even after I graduated, he still calls and says, "Hey, I think in this lab there is a position, a paid position. I know someone, I know ex student of mine reached out to me that he's hiring, and he asked me to send my resume out there. He said, I really believe that you're a good person and good working skill. I think you'll shine here. Go submit your resume. I've referred to him to you already."
Okay.
I say, don't make the same mistake as I did.
Yeah.
Just don't self reject, just go approach.
Also, a lot of professors are really empathetic about our funding positions.
Sure, right,
So,
definitely.
yeah, I used to, when I was working as an usher, I used to have my research meeting with my professor after that. And he used to see me in that state, like, sweat. I was like tired, sweaty, like not in a good mood, and I was wearing the usher uniform, and I was also doing research. So he thought that I believe that like he never communicated that, but I believe he understood my financial position, and that might be a case as well of how I get my funding um, and support from him. So be honest with your financial positions, and if they have the availability, they will definitely help you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think thank you, Dhairya, and thank you, Sagarika, for your inputs. So that was really great listening to your insights on this topic, and I'm sure we'll have more discussions on a lot more topics in the coming weeks. Okay.
Pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.